Welcome back to the Rink Rap Podcast presented by Forever Blueshirts. I'm Jim Cerny, and that is an ESPN legend over there. Legend. Linda Cohn. I was waiting for the laugh because you got that sarcastic New York in you. You can live in LA. You still have that sarcastic New York in you. I know, but you are a legend and you are ESPN's legend. And it's so awesome that you're sharing a few minutes with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jim. It's been a long time coming. Again, continued success on this venue and this stage that you've crushed. It's fantastic. And no, I just remember the old days with me and you at the Garden, loving everything, just waiting for the players. It's hurry up and wait. You know, that's what we do as reporters. For the locker room to open so we can go in and talk to the players. I mean, I have just such great memories of covering that team. I cherish it, you know, driving home the 2 hours to Southbury, Connecticut, where I used to live just to do radio, you know, pre and post game, make barely any money for it. Just to, you know, I mean, just because of the love of the Rangers back then for me. And, you know, we talk about it a lot and I know you can relate. You may not be part of the team, literally, but you feel like you're a part of the team.
Yeah. No, it's such the truth. And I mean, you're right. We had many conversations standing outside the door waiting for it to open.
About who should go, who should be traded, who's a waste of time. You know, I probably 50% of the time I was right.
So you 50%.
Yeah.
50, he says. But she thought she was right 100% of the time.
I did at the time. I you remember.
I would say that you would get so fired up, like, especially like, you know, if things weren't going well. That's when you needed Linda. That's when you needed Linda on the air, is when things weren't going well for that team. You'd be all fired up and like you said, you were right 50% of the time, but you'd be like, listen, this guy's got to go. There was like no pulling punches with you. Love that about you.
And you know, Jim, I got to jump in there because it's so true. I got reprimanded because I basically represented the fan too much. You know, I didn't do a lot of the radio pre and post game and intermissions, but I did enough for like a couple of years where it got to a point where, you know, I thought as a Ranger fan, because that's what I was, a fan first. And I was saying everything that had to be said, but I was told to like ease up, seriously. You know what I mean? I mean, because but one of my greatest moments of doing the MSG radio stuff for the Rangers was when they didn't send me. They didn't pay for my dime to get out to Los Angeles. But it was, of course, the final against the LA Kings.
Yeah.
I wouldn't miss it for the world. But they found out that I was there as a fan. Okay. So they're like, Linda, would you mind then doing the pre and post game? And it was game 5, of course.
Yep.
Although a valiant effort by Henrik and the gang. That's when they fell to the LA Kings. And there I was up at the rafters at then Staples Center, watching the Kings celebrate after that Alec Martinez.
And you had to go on the air.
And I had to go on the air. And that's where I was guilty as charged because, but I felt like I was a therapist for Ranger fans because it was very sad.
Yeah, well, you know what? So that night, since we went down, we're going down the rabbit hole here. So, of course, I'm sitting up in the rafters as well in the building. And I worked for the team then. You know, I did the team's website, team reporter and all that. And I was sitting with the assistant coaches that were upstairs that were had the headset on, you know, looking down. Benoit Lair was to my left.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, you talk about just true professionals. First, you know, Nash misses, you know, could have won the game there in double OT, did not. But
hit the post, right? He hit the post.
No, who was
did he just miss? You know who hit the post? Brian Boyle hit the post.
Boyle hit the post.
Right.
Nash had an
just missed, I think.
And the defenseman kicked out his leg in front of Quick because Quick was way out of position. But anyway, so I'm sitting with the assistant coaches. We see Alec Martinez coming down, you know, down. And the assistants saw it before I did, that he was going to be wide open if Henrik let up any rebound because I even forget who it was now. Benoit
I forgot he took that first shot.
Pouliot was late on the back check. So it was an odd man rush. Of course, everybody remembers rebound kicks out. Martinez hammers it into the net. And both Benny and now I'm forgetting the name of the other assistant coach, but they closed their books quietly. No cursing, no throwing things, no pounding fists. They just stood up. Benny pats me on the back. He says, "See you downstairs."
Wow.
And they headed to the elevator. Now, maybe in the elevator or in the coach's room, they were throwing things, but they were so calm and professional about it. And just when you said that you were the therapist for the fans, you were the emotional, it was really eye-opening to see the coaches like that in the, obviously the biggest moment of the season, the most disappointing moment of the season. And they were so composed, both of them. And again, I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but they're so composed. So that was my Game 5 story.
I don't know if I like that. As a New Yorker and someone who's born in New York City,
Yeah.
I want them to be upset. I want them to be disappointed. I know obviously the Rangers were heavy underdogs in that, and you're down 3-1 there, and they play. I always remember there were so many great moments of just they were so they were overachieving, right, and they were undermanned compared to this Kings
for sure
team. And I always remember that the game that they did win when Derek Stepan, remember when he was in the crease or something, or knocking out the puck? I mean, he saved the game for Henrik. I kind of like, there were these moments every player had one.
Came diving back towards the goal line. Yeah.
Right, and kept it out. I remember his picture of that, where that scene that was on like the front of the New York Post or something or whatever. It was just crazy.
But these are the memories we share, right? I remember, and now we're really going down rabbit holes here.
The fans like this. I mean, because that's how long it's been, right? Since they went to a final. What I want to say, you were in that dressing room. I had to be up there being Miss Therapist, and that I'll always remember the picture. Everyone left him alone. Hank was just head down. And what was that like? Were you able to see that, or?
No, absolutely. So the locker room was closed for, 30, 40 minutes at least. And finally we were allowed in. And as you walked into the visiting room in the Staples Center, the goalies were immediately to your right after the coach's office. So Henrik was on the end. And then actually it wasn't Cam Talbot. Talbot was injured. Remember they had the journeyman backup? Because Talbot got hurt at
I don't even remember his name.
Conference final. Right. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Henrik is there. And when I say he's in full uniform,
the
pads are on, the gloves were off, the mask is still perched on top of his head. And he's just hanging his head like this.
Right.
And I'm like, what am I going to ask this guy? Like, what, intelligent question can I come up with to ask this guy in this moment right now? And I mean, I worked my way around the room, Brian Boyle, Ryan McDonough, all the great go-tos, who were so professional, handling themselves in that moment. And then we got to Henrik, and God bless him, still with the mask on top of his head, more than an hour after Martinez's goal. And, he answered every question, and God bless him.
That's who he is. Yeah.
So anyway. I know how much that you love Henrik Lundqvist and loves, what he brought to the organization, everything. I'm going to throw one out to you because I know big Ranger fan, you know the history of this organization, everything. We're going to have a mythical Game 7, winner take all Stanley Cup game. You can have anybody on the roster. The opponent can be anybody, whatever. But you can only have one goalie to win that Game 7. So here are your choices. You've got Mike Richter, who actually did win a couple big Game 7s, right? Including the Game 7.
That's right.
You can put Richter in there, or you could put Henrik Lundqvist in there. And just to have some fun with it, you could put Igor in there. Your choice. Who's your guy?
I thought I'm old enough. You could have put Eddie Giacomin in there because he's my all-time first favorite goaltender. He's the reason why I decided to play goalie. Yeah, because he was just so cool and he was so great with his stick, coming out of the net, starting fights, not taking any crap. Loved Eddie Giacomin so much. So he's always close to my heart. He's just amazing. But to answer your question, I love all those netminders you mentioned.
Don't give me
you know
love.
what?
And
you could throw in the backup, Jonathan Quick, by the way, because he's technically I mean, you really could playing out of his mind. And I want to get to that in a second because that's very newsworthy, right? But I gotta go with a guy that's got it done, Mike Richter. I mean, I love everybody else, but you got to go to a go-to that's got it done, and he did it twice, and he did it. It's just unthinkable, improbable, unbelievable. So it's definitely Mike Richter all day for me.
Right. And you're right. We could bring Jonathan Quick into it because he, of course, not only beat the Rangers in 2014, but he's got 2 Stanley Cup championships as the number one and got a 3rd one with Vegas. And by the way, has found the fountain of youth.
Yes.
Not just this season, last year and this season. I mean,
unbelievable.
What a signing, right? Probably
right. So
move.
That I said that I do a spot on SiriusXM NHL Network Radio every Monday, and I've been talked about Quickie last year, and I said it really helped Igor Shesterkin get his game together last year. We all remember that slump he went through.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for Quickie being great, I don't think Igor's a competitor who wouldn't be. You don't get this far in the best league in sports, not to have that bother you, even though they get along with the backup playing better than you.
Right.
So that turned him around, I thought. And so this year, obviously, we know the numbers: 0.091, 3 goals during a 4-game span, 4-0, 2 back-to-back shutouts.
Yeah.
He turns 39 in 2 months in January. It's unbelievable. I have obviously forgiven him for the beating the Rangers. And it's just such a great story, right? I mean, he grew up obviously a Rangers fan, always has been. And Chris Drury, the move to bring him here when nobody wanted him because he didn't do anything with Vegas. What he was an extra goalie coach.
Yeah.
He never played,
Nope.
So there was that. So, I mean, there's a part of me, Jim, that has to hold back. Oh, this is the part I was going to tell you, Jim, because I said this on Sirius on Monday. This whole thing with the big contract, the $12 million a year with Shesterkin, and that's got to be over his head. Ranger fans, they don't want to hear this, right? You can get all the money you want. You probably should get the $12 million a year, but you can't have any back-to-back 5-goal games, Igor. Because Ranger fans are not going to take this kind of stuff. Not when the backup, the guy that's about to turn 39, is shutting teams out. And ironically, that is not helping Shesterkin's cause to get the big money. I mean, so there's a part of me that's like, oh, that's the Rangers' great system. And that, you put in a goalie in there that can stop the puck. Do you really need to pay Shesterkin all that money? Could you get, you got Quick, but you get somebody else in there. We see these other teams that have gotten, I don't know, look at the Devils, how they improve their goalie situations. They got a terrific tandem.
Or the guys that have won the cup, Kemper and Hill, guys that aren't, big superstars. Yeah, exactly.
So my point, but then the other half of me is like, come on, Linda, Igor's amazing. It reminds me like, and I always come back to, he deserves that money. This is the goalie market right now. I know he hasn't won a cup. I know he hasn't gotten to a final, but he's still young and he should be paid. Yeah. So but the Quick situation, I don't think helps his cause.
Well, I'll tell you what does help his cause is the way he played in the playoffs last year. That's for sure. Because when the money's on the line,
he's great.
He's unbelievable. He
really is unbelievable. I know.
It seems every regular season he has kind of
that slump. Yeah.
And I mean, he didn't in 21-22 when he won the Vezina. No. I mean, he was lights out. But pretty much every other, there's the up and down. But man, when it comes to crunch time, he's
and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, Jim, and I'm glad you brought that up, that he's great in the playoffs. When people ask me, it doesn't matter what sport, I don't care if they've won 1 million league MVPs. I want to know, what are you doing in the postseason? How many times do we see this in every sport? Guys are great in the regular season, and they're not as great in the postseason. And just look at the NHL and goalies. Connor Hellebuck, one of the best goalies ever, stinks in the postseason. Awful. I love Connor Hellebuck. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
He always is mediocre in the postseason. I'm just naming one guy. I'm waiting. I love Jake Ottinger of Dallas.
Yeah.
He's good. He was good, but he wasn't great last year.
Yeah. No, he wasn't.
That team could have won the cup.
Yeah.
If he was great, you got to be great. And Igor has been great in the postseason. And I put a lot of stock in that.
So, it's interesting I find in conversations with Ranger fans is there's a little bit of revisionist history going on because now Igor is the it goalie, as well he should be. He's your number one. He is great. He's going to be the highest paid goalie ever, the way the market's going. All awesome. And you see what he's done in the playoffs. He's a big game goalie. I could go on. However, it shouldn't be at the expense of Henrik Lundqvist. Because I get so many Ranger fans that all of a sudden this revisionist history about, they couldn't win the cup with Henrik. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Did you see those teams? And I'm not saying they were bad teams, but I mean, he carried
them.
Those game sevens and oh my goodness. I'm like, he didn't win a Stanley Cup. He did not. And that'll forever be part of his record, in the Hall of Fame, I might add. Right. That will always be on his record. But you're telling me the Rangers didn't win because of Henrik, as opposed to they even had a sniffing chance of winning because of Henrik?
He was great. His performance in the postseason, heroic.
Right.
All the time. Never let the Rangers or the organization down in the postseason. Never, ever.
So I even made the argument, or not even the argument. I just threw it out there just to get topic of conversation, get people talking. If Henrik was on last year's Rangers team, and I'm not saying that, he wouldn't have done or that he would have done better than Igor or whatever in the playoffs, but with that amount of skill, I don't think Henrik, go through all the years, I don't think he was ever on a Rangers team that is as skilled as the one that was out there last season. Now I know they got, outplayed badly by Florida in the conference finals. So sometimes it's not just all about skill, but just taking on paper talent. He never played with the team that good or that talented. I shouldn't say that good because sometimes the team was better than its skill. Some of those Ranger teams he was on, but just skill wise, he never had that type of skill, when he was in the net.
Yeah. He never had a player like Artemi Panarin.
Never.
Okay. Never. This guy is an annual MVP candidate.
Fox.
Yeah. Adam Fox, Norris Trophy winner, right? I mean, he never had that. Even like the Stanley Cup winning team in 94. Incredible. Like Richter, even though I love him and would pick him for a game 7, look at that team.
Yeah.
Brian Leach, Mark Messier, we can go on and on. Star-studded roster. So, yes, I mean, who knows? We can look back and we could say, but that is a fact. I mean, with all due respect to that incredible team that went to the final in 2014, they'd be the first to tell you, the Rick Nashes of the world, that it was all about Henrik Lundqvist. Yeah. The Derek Brassards of the world, who had a great postseason. He was great in the postseason for the Rangers. The Derek Stepons, all of them. They would say it was Lundqvist.
Look at it right now. And I love Brass and Step, great buddy of mine and everything. Great guys. They're third line centers on this current team. Again, because Trocheck, better player, better all-around player.
Absolutely.
Mika, despite all the, issues
problems,
and everything. Better player, better center, right? So
anyway, much deeper from 1 to 4 lines. Everything was deeper. Defense, everything. You never know. But that's a good comeback for you when you deal with these Ranger fans, because they wear it on their sleeve and we can relate. We get it, and you just try to, as I mentioned, you try to be therapeutic, but also like, I get it. I know what you're going through.
Yeah. But I'm going to hit you with some dose of reality as well. I'll give you the therapy. I'm going to give you the reality.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, just because we're on the topic, right? And you mentioned the contract and, we know that we don't know. We've heard that he may want a certain high percentage of the salary cap, whatever it's going to be. And that may be what he's holding out for right now. So all that said, we went through the Henrik years, and we talked about it, how great he was. He carried those teams and everything. But if you invest so much in your goalie, obviously it's going to detract somewhere along the line. You're not going to be able to add this guy or that guy, to the roster. So I guess that's a roundabout way of asking, do you go full in 8 years, 12.5 million on Igor? Do you think it's the right play?
Yeah, I just don't know how you can, with this goalie market, pay him less than 12 million.
Right.
You just can't. You just can't get away with it. Again, I equate it to other sports with quarterbacks. I mentioned this on Sirius on Monday too. The quarterback is the most important position in the National Football League. The goalie, to me, is the most important position in the National Hockey League. This is not breaking news. And this question is always, brought up and questioned by owners. I mean, look at the Dallas Cowboys paying all that money to Dak Prescott, and you don't have any money left to pay other players. I'm not even going to mention Daniel Jones because that's absolutely makes me sick. But I think the wrong GM got fired, by the way, in New York today. Actually,
boy.
So it's just the fact. Again. I mean, I can't take it. I can't take it. And I knew this a long time ago with that pick. No offense to Daniel Jones, but anyway, I digress. I think you got to pay the guy. I think the 8 years, 12 million. A perfect world, it would be around 11 something. But that's what I'm saying, getting back to the fans. If Igor does not perform like we expect him to perform and even go another level in the playoffs this year, after he gets paid that money, the fans remember. Yeah. The fans are not going to have it because they know, to your point, Chris Drury won't be allowed. His hands will be tied to improve the team at the deadline. And if he sees some areas that need to be improved and he can't do it, yeah. I don't know. You know what? I just had a flashback of, speaking of players that, again, nice guys. We know that, Jim, because we talk to them and we get it.
Yeah.
That year when the Rangers lost to, not last year, the year before, they lost to the Lightning, and Ryan Strome had the puck on his stick with the empty net. And I'm like, that would have changed everything. So it's like a player and skill level is so significant in the postseason. You can't settle. I'm serious. It's just, I don't know why I had that flashback, but we were talking about things. That was a flashback. That was an awful, I was there for that game. That was bad. That was awful.
All right.
Anyway.
Real quickly. And I know that you have to run, and we got to do this again soon because there's so much more to. Yeah.
Later in the season, we'll see how everything goes.
To go down.
Yeah.
But, real quickly, fill the fans in on. Obviously, they know you, ESPN, SportsCenter, and all that. But working for the Seattle Kraken part-time this season too, getting involved with the team because you're out west now, and getting the chance to work on their broadcasts as well, which I think is awesome. Working for a team, there's nothing like it. Being part of it, even if you're on the periphery, just being part of it. It's really cool, and you're getting that opportunity with the Kraken this year.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it, Jim. Yeah, this is the first year I'm a part-time host because I still have a commitment to ESPN SportsCenter. They pay my bigger bills, but I wanted to be part of a team, and I have a history with Seattle. Period, the beautiful Emerald City, because my daughter was born there. I actually worked at KIRO TV. That was my big break as a sportscaster, sports reporter before ESPN, way back when. That was like 3 decades ago. But I'll never forget how great Seattle is. It's a great sports town. And I've been connected. I have been in connection since the Kraken was born 4 years ago, and just never was the right time to at least, put my, foot in the water to just be a part of this team. And then I had an opportunity this year where we could figure something out. And so I'm a host, intermission host and post-game host, pre and post-game. For the Kraken, about 15 to 20 games a year. We'll see if they make the playoffs. I think they'll be a sleeper team. The West is so much harder, challenging than the Eastern Conference. I know that sounds nuts considering the Metro Division is better than we thought it was going to be. The Atlantic, not so much. Yeah. But the West is, really tough. But I love it. It's great. The players are great, and the fans there. And as I told you earlier, a fun trip to come to Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle. It's just an amazing building. I always say, Vegas, T-Mobile, that's a great building. That's a great experience.
Yeah.
Seattle and the Kraken took a page from them. I think it was the same company, the entertainment company that Vegas used, and Seattle hired them. And it shows. It's so, I'm taking pictures, posting on Instagram of their pregame fun, weird thing from the sea creature from the deep comes out of the ice. Yeah. All these like amazing things. I know the Rangers were there and they played. Rangers had to play a great game to beat them, 2-0. Yeah.
Wow.
If it wasn't for Quick,
he was unbelievable.
He's the reason. They could, it would have been a different story, But the Rangers, but the Kraken did do the Rangers a favor by beating the Islanders, which is a game I did the day before. So that was always, as speaking for all Ranger fans, that's always satisfying. But it's really exciting. So I'll be out there. I'll be spending my Thanksgiving in Seattle, Jim. I'm covering the Kraken on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, and they have a game a day after Thanksgiving as well.
Well, that's so awesome that you're doing that. You know how, we've talked about it before. Just being a part of the team, being part of a team there's nothing like it. And I'm so glad that you're getting that opportunity. Even more glad that we were finally able to hook up. We've been trying to do this for a little while.
Look how easy we got back to it. Like you do it, you invite me on and we're telling stories about the old days and it just all came back to me, Jim.
See, I'm such a I don't do anything scripted. Like it's just I had to do scripted. It wouldn't work. So as we sit down and we just talk like we used to, and it was so much fun. And I really appreciate your time today joining us.
Yeah, let's do it again. We'll see what happens with Igor.
Well, he can have you as the agent right now.
There it is. Exactly. Awesome. Thanks, Jim.